Okay, let's get started. Hi everyone, my name is Madison Bryan and I'm the Enrollment Services Assistant. I wanted to mention a couple housekeeping items before we start. All attendees are muted, but you're welcome to use the Q&A feature to ask questions. And we also have a dedicated time for Q&A at the end of today's session, and we have set aside 10 to 15 minutes to answer them. We'll also be recording this webinar and we'll be sending an email out with a link for everyone to watch, whether they're in attendance or not. I'm now going to let my SAI colleagues introduce themselves and get us started. Angela, looks like you're still on mute right now.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Maddie. Welcome, everyone. We'll start this again. My name is Angela Chang, and I manage the business office here at SAI. I will be leading our session today along with Brittany Hernandez, our financial aid associate. We are excited to be presenting this information today in hopes of answering questions about how to use your financial aid funds to help pay for your fees here at SAI. We're going to be presenting quite a bit of information, and most likely there will be many of you with the same questions. So Brittany, do you want to introduce yourself and begin talking about how a student lets us know about how and when they'll be planning on using financial aid to pay for their study abroad program?
Absolutely. Thank you, Madison. Thank you, Angela. Welcome, everybody. I'm Brittany Hernandez. I manage the majority of the financial aid students here at SAI. Our department is a team of 4, and 2 of which handle financial aid students. You'll receive communication, if you haven't already, from either Angela or myself. So let's get right into it with what financial aid means at SAI. When you filled out your SAI application, you mark that you'll be using financial aid to help pay for all or a portion of your program costs. If you had not marked financial aid, you would have received an email from our business office colleague, Judy Gwynn Amsler, giving you 2 equal payment amounts and their due dates. These students are considered non-financial aid students and are paying SAI directly, and they do not defer their payments. However, you marked that you wanted to use your financial aid to pay for all or part of your program costs. This is a SAI-specific notation for us internally. It does not change or impact your financial aid at your home university. Marking financial aid just means that you're trying to defer your payments past our payment deadlines here at SAI, and you want to wait for your aid disbursement to submit your payment. It's important to note that SAI is not a school itself. We're a third-party study abroad provider. Therefore, we are unable to certify loans or award our own financial aid. For this reason, I want to stress the significance of speaking and meeting with your financial aid office at your home university to inquire about your financial aid package and whether or not you can use those funds to help pay for your SAI fees. As a financial aid student, you have a different payment schedule than students who are paying SAI directly. A financial aid student is still responsible for paying the application fee, the required confirmation deposits, and any applicable housing upgrade fees as outlined in the acceptance letter. You are also given homework that grants you a payment deferment instead of having a payment deadline for 50% of the program costs. Your homework is to complete the SAI financial aid deferment paperwork and return it to us by outlined dates, depending on your program. And we'll talk about this homework here shortly.
Okay, so let's talk about financial aid and what that means. So we use the word financial aid as a catch-all phrase that includes, but is not limited to, federal, state, or institutional aid, loans, grants, scholarships. We're not able to confirm whether or not your financial aid package will be applicable to your balance here at SAI. Therefore, you're required to meet with your financial aid advisor at your home university. They're going to be able to assist you in completing our paperwork, which is called the SAI Financial Aid Deferment Paperwork. If you have not made an appointment to meet with them, we would highly suggest that is your next step after this webinar. Your financial aid advisors are the only ones that are able to fill out and provide the required information in order for you to defer payments at SAI.
That's right, Angela. And as I mentioned earlier, marking the financial aid on your SAI application does not change or affect your financial aid status at your home university. SAI does give out a number of scholarships each semester. However, these amounts are not enough to cover the program costs, but if awarded, they would be applied to your overall program cost balance.
So before we continue, if you're watching this webinar and you receive a GI Bill, veterans benefits, tuition benefits, if you have a 529 plan, or if you attend any of the schools listed here on this slide, you might not have to complete the paperwork that we are going over. These schools listed have a unique billing structure, and SAI Programs will invoice a portion of your program costs to your home university. And then you'll pay the remaining portion to SAI. So just know that if you have any of those things that I just listed, right? GI Bill, veterans benefits, 529, or you go to any of these universities, you want to take down my contact information. We'll repeat it again. It was at the beginning of the slide. We'll be sending the information out. You'll want to contact me directly, and we can go over your unique payment structure separate from this webinar.
All right, well, now let's talk about the financial aid deferment paperwork. This is SAI's way of understanding your financial aid package and acts as a promissory note so that you can defer a portion or all of your program costs payment to a later date. This paperwork is always available to you on our website, but it'll also be emailed to you on multiple occasions. When you pay your deposits, a detailed confirmation email is sent to your primary email, as well as your parental email if you have noted that we're allowed to speak with your parents, with instructions on how to complete the paperwork. So the most important step of completing this paperwork is meeting with your financial aid office at your home university and returning the paperwork on time. This information is required in order to defer your payments at SAI, so be sure to set up that meeting as soon as possible if you haven't already done so. At this meeting, you can ask your financial aid advisor if a consortium agreement is needed. And just really quickly, a consortium agreement or a cost breakdown sheet is a form that is typically sent directly to SAI Programs from your home school, and it just requests all costs that might occur while you are abroad. Once it's filled out, it'll be sent to the individual who requested it and to the student.
So new privacy laws have begun to limit SAI's access to your paperwork. So for this reason, most financial aid offices will complete the worksheet part of page 2, and then they will hand this document back to you. If your financial aid office does complete page 2 and sends it directly to SAI, they're going to send it to our general financial aid email, which is just financialaid@saiprograms.com. So you're going to want to make sure that if they do that, you're going to want to complete all the fields that require your information first, so that they can then complete the worksheet so that it's fully complete, and then they'll send it back to us. It is imperative that you follow up with your financial aid office and SAI before the paperwork deadline to ensure that it was sent and that we have received it. It is ultimately always your responsibility to make sure that both pages 2 and 3 are completed and returned to our office by the paperwork deadline. We will always send you an email confirmation anytime this paperwork is received. So therefore, it is likely that the paperwork has not been received if you have not received a confirmation email.
Step 3 does not require any information from your financial aid office. Therefore, we encourage you to sign and date this page and send it to our office once it's completed. Some students find it helpful to do this so that they know they have half of their paperwork already submitted. So here's some due dates. Your payment due date for any amount covered by financial aid is set to be 2 weeks after your disbursement date. If the aid is not dispersed on time or to your parent or guardian, you guys must notify SAI immediately so we can discuss adjusting your payment due date. Again, this 2-week period allows for your monies to be dispersed to you, deposited, and to have the funds available in time in order to pay SAI directly. So this is the top part of page 2. This is the worksheet that must be completed by your financial aid office. The first section that the financial aid office will fill out is the type of financial aid you receive, the amount, and the anticipated disbursement date. The disbursement date that they list on this page is how SAI will determine your final payment deadline for the deferred payment. Let's use our moderator, Maddie, as an example. Maddie receives 2 forms of financial aid. One is a merit scholarship for $3,750, and the other is a private loan for $7,000. On the far right, you can see that the financial aid office has listed out 2 different disbursement dates. The business office at SAI will use the earlier date and will look at the calendar and count 2 weeks after that date. So Maddie's financial aid award would be due January 19th, 2 weeks after it's dispersed. This 2-week buffer allows for your disbursement to be late a few days, depending on the disbursement day of the week, in order to make sure that the funds are dispersed and make sure the funds are available in your account in order for you to then log onto our website and make the final payment.
So line 2 on this worksheet tells us any fees that your home school might withdraw from your total financial aid award. This might be due to any study abroad fees or anything that is past due on your account at your home university. I want to stress that not every student will have an amount listed on line 2. And I just completely went to the top of my script. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much. So I want to stress this number does not come from SAI, and it's crucial to, again, this is the reason why it's crucial to have your paperwork filled out by your financial aid office so that we have the correct numbers. Not accounting for this line and that amount could drastically change your disbursement amount, and then of course change the payment that you are going to have due to SAI Programs. We want to make sure that you have the most clear and accurate information for your financial awards and financial responsibilities as possible. So this is just one more reason to make sure that you're not filling out this worksheet yourself, and that the financial aid office at your home university is filling out this worksheet for you.
All right, on line 3, we can see that the math has been done where the financial aid office has subtracted line 2 from line 1, and the total amount of financial aid that Maddie will be receiving for her spring semester is $10,550. If Maddie was going to Florence University of the Arts, like some of you are, and her program balance is $13,850, she would have to pay the remaining balance that is not covered by her financial aid by December 1st. For the majority of students, your financial aid refund will be dispersed to you or to your parent or guardian directly. In whatever manner these funds are normally dispersed to you, it is likely how this semester's aid will be dispersed to you as well. If your financial aid office marks anything other than student, please inquire with your financial aid office about the specific date of disbursement and the way in which the money will be dispersed. This portion must be completed by you, the student. If your financial aid office will be turning this page into our office on your behalf, please be sure to complete this section before you drop it off to the financial aid office. Some of our affiliate schools that return paperwork to our office on their students' behalf include, but not limited to, University of South Carolina, Washington State University, and Colorado State. Beginning this paperwork process as soon as possible is imperative to deferring payment. We cannot accept paperwork past November 15th deadline without an additional payment being made. Once your financial aid deferment paperwork has been submitted, you'll receive an email confirmation from our office, 1 email per page. Additionally, you'll receive a personal email from either myself or from Angela outlining the payment that will be due on December 1st. If your aid package does not cover the entire balance, the email will be outlining, oh my goodness, my brain. Outlining the payment will be due December 1st if your aid package does not cover the entire balance, as well as the due date for that payment. Remember, your deferred payment will always be due no later than 2 weeks after the disbursement date listed on page 2 of the financial aid deferment paperwork. It's really important to be aware of our cancellation and withdrawal policy. You sign it upon submitting your SAI application and again on page 3 of the SAI financial aid deferment paperwork. If you withdraw within 75 days of the program or less, you will still be financially responsible for a percentage of the program costs, even if you're a financial aid student. Please be sure to date, print, and sign your name and return it along with or before page 2. When your aid is dispersed, most likely it'll be while you are already studying abroad. Having a parent or guardian listed here allows SAI to communicate with the appointed person about having your disbursement date, any possible delays in disbursement, and making a payment on your behalf while you are abroad. This is not required, but highly recommended so that there are no delays or holds placed on your account because of late payments.
A lot of detailed information, Brittany. Thank you so much. So now that we know or have covered all of that, what if a student originally marked financial aid and they've listened to this webinar now and they're realizing that maybe they marked it incorrectly and they actually don't want to defer payment, they don't want to be marked as financial aid in our system, what would they do?
Great question. If you originally marked financial aid at SAI, but now realizing that you will not be using financial aid to cover your program costs, you can email us at financialaid@saiprograms.com and we'll update your record so that our colleague, who I mentioned earlier, Judy, will send you the current balance and payment due date information.
Woohoo! That concludes our step-by-step instructions on how to complete the SAI financial aid deferment paperwork. As you can see, timing is really everything. So now I'm going to switch over to the Q&A portion of our webinar. Number 1, what steps should I be taking now to be sure that I'm on track for financial aid to apply?
So I'll answer that one, Brittany, if you don't mind. So the steps that you can be taking right now is meeting with your financial aid office. Now. So you want to meet with them as early as possible. Some financial aid offices, they want you to quite literally print the paperwork and bring it in. Some offices will say, just send it to us in a digital form in a PDF. We'll fill it out and send it back to you. So you're going to kind of want to just gauge your office. If you have financial aid and you normally have taken out financial aid before, you most likely have some sort of point of contact. So I would just start there. Make sure that you talk with that point of contact or someone in the financial aid office and find out exactly how much you are getting find out how much exactly you owe SAI Programs, and then work with, if you have family that is part of this conversation, parents or guardians, make sure you're including them and find out, do you need to take out more? If you need to take out more, that needs to be starting now instead of November 1st or November 10th, applying for more loans. You won't get the paperwork done on time, and you'll have to make additional payments in order to get extensions. So starting now so that you know exactly how much you owe, how much you're getting, and really starting to start the process now is our best chance of being on track, so that you can get the paperwork in and know that you can either defer all of your payment or a majority of it or whatever it might be. So starting early. Brittany, I have a question for you, if you don't mind. There was a question that came in. How do scholarships get applied from my home school to the host school, which I think maybe they mean SAI Programs? How much coverage does financial aid provide? And are there any scholarships? So there's lots of good questions in there.
Yeah, kind of a loaded question there. So you are paying the host school through SAI Programs for tuition and housing. There might be a couple course fees, books, other miscellaneous things, just like as you would for any college semester, anything you might need additionally, that you'll have to pay out of pocket once you arrive on site. However, completing our forms and through our process, you're ensuring that any eligible aid, either loans, scholarships, will be applied to your tuition and housing that you pay through SAI. So with the scholarships, we do have SAI scholarships, and those are located on our website underneath our financial aid drop-down menu. So you can take a look at those. If awarded a SAI scholarship, it'll be announced prior to the final payment deadline on December 1st. And again, it'll be applied directly to your SAI balance.
Okay. Somebody asked about, they just said housing question mark. So I don't know if that's a financial aid question, but Brittany, do you just want to talk about housing in terms of program costs and payments, you know, whether housing is included or not?
Yeah, so like I just mentioned too, housing is covered within our program costs, but there are supplemental fees with that. So if you wanted to do like a private room, a room all to yourself, we do have that in there, and those are kind of depending on your program.
But those can't be deferred, right? You can't use financial aid and defer those costs. Those have to be paid out of pocket, right?
Correct. Those do have to be paid out of pocket, and we cannot guarantee a private room, but we can put that in and make sure, you know, we can at least attempt to do it. And yeah, it would be really nice to have a private room in Florence.
Right. Okay, and then I'll jump over to Maddie and see if there's any more that came in. But the last one that I see is, can you use multiple forms of financial aid, like a scholarship and a loan? Which I think we've covered, but let's just say it again. So can you use multiple forms of financial aid, like a scholarship and a loan?
Yeah, you can totally use both, or multiple forms of financial aid. Everything should be listed on that second page once you get it back from your financial aid office. And then again, that will be able to tell how much financial aid you get from, if you have a scholarship and a loan, if you have a loan and a grant, we'll be able to do that calculations for you and go from there and let you know what the remaining balance, if any.
Okay. Okay, perfect. And then
I do see some Q&As that popped up.
Okay. Oh, that's
Yeah, I can get us started for the Q&A panel.
Perfect.
Okay, so the first one we have is, how do we go about making monthly payments?
Yeah. So we actually are not set up to do monthly payments. If you have additional questions beyond that, you are free to reach out to me personally. My email is Angela, Angela, at SAI Programs with an S at the end, programs.com. You can reach out to me directly, but typically we don't set up monthly payments, unfortunately. But happy to take your email separately from this, and I can discuss that more with you off this webinar.
Okay. Looks like we had another repeat for the housing. Are they able to use financial aid towards the private room?
They are not. So private rooms, anything that is a housing upgrade, those are based. So private rooms, anything that's an upgrade is first paid, first assigned, right? So you can't defer it because we can't assign it when it's deferred. So students that want to upgrade have to pay out of pocket. And so if you want a private room, you do have to pay it out of pocket, and it can't be deferred or lumped in with the amount that you want to defer to use financial aid, unfortunately.
And is housing provided by this program, or can you find your own housing?
It's also an excellent question. So housing is provided by this program. It is part of our program costs. All of our housing is our apartments. So let me just preface this by saying our team here that is putting on this webinar is the business office. Our expertise is all things financials. So our expertise is definitely not admissions. So if you have questions beyond what I'm able to provide to you right now about specifics about housing, I would encourage you to reach out to your students admissions counselor for that program, and they will be able to go into far more depth about the types of housing that we provide. I will just not do it justice because I do not work in admissions. However, having worked for SAI for almost a decade, I can tell you that we include housing. They are apartment style housing. They're not dorms. They are wonderful. You know, they're around the city center. Students can find their own housing, but it is a process. It has to get approved through their school, and there is a process. And so we can, again, if you reach out to us directly or the admissions counselor, we can kind of walk you through what that paperwork and how that reduces the program cost. It doesn't take away the housing cost altogether. It just reduces it. So we can talk about that more outside of this webinar. But they can find their own housing if they wish, but it's a little bit of a process, and they have to go through an approval process for that.
I'm not sure if you guys can answer this, but can they see any estimates for room and board? This man's son is going to Barcelona.
Like for the cost of the housing?
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, outside of this webinar, if you reach out to your admissions counselor, and if you're looking to compare and contrast finding your own housing versus our housing, we can help you with that cost comparison. Absolutely.
Let's see. This one says, my son is coming from the University of South Carolina, and I called the financial aid office yesterday and was told he needs to fill out a pre-screened form. I assume this is something required by the school and separate from the SAI paperwork?
Yes. So that is can be a confusing part of the financial aid process for students and just study abroad in general, and not specific to University of South Carolina, but just to most schools, is that you'll hear forms and paperwork, and you'll hear all these buzzwords and things that go back and forth. And I, as a parent, I know it can be really overwhelming and hard to keep track of whose paperwork is whose. That form is University of South Carolina specific. It is quite simple, but it is required. So it's a pre-screen form that Tara Merkel, who is the financial aid, she is amazing over in South Carolina. She handles all of the financial aid forms for all of the South Carolina students. She is unbelievable. She's unbelievable. So she will require that. And then once that's filled out by your student, then she will then go ahead and fill out our paperwork. So it's kind of a tit for tat kind of thing. So yes, that's a South Carolina specific thing, but it's quite simple. They just need to fill that out and then she can fill out our paperwork.
The next one just says the regular deadline for those not using financial aid for the host institution I'm going to is on October 1st. I'm still not sure if I will be able to use the financial aid to cover any of the costs. Does that mean that I would then have to submit the regular payment to make sure I meet the deadlines?
Let me read that one more time. The regular deadline for those not using financial aid for those host employees is going to be still not sure if I'll be able to use financial aid to cover. So if you are not sure and you're still kind of doing your homework with your financial aid office, then I would say to leave your marking here at SAI Programs as financial aid.
I agree.
However, asterisk is that you have to be prepared that if you get to the point where you find out that there is not a lot of financial aid or perhaps maybe no financial aid, we're going to ask you to catch up. So if your total here is, let's just make it a nice round number. If your balance here is $14,000 and you find out on November 1st that there's just no financial aid, or maybe the financial aid package is like $1,000 and it's just not worth deferring $1,000, we're going to ask you for $7,000 and then another $7,000 on December 1st. So as long as you're ready to take that gamble and you're ready to, you're prepared to be able to make these big chunks of payments fairly close together, then we're fine with leaving you as a financial aid account so that you can kind of sort it out, right? That's the perk of being labeled as a financial aid account in our system, is that we don't ask for that 50% payment. But the flip side to it is that you could possibly get faced with a large payment or a couple large payments pretty close together. And for spring students, unfortunately, those payment dates just happen to be during the holiday time. So as long as everybody is very clear about those requirements, then I would say just leave it as financial aid as you're still doing your homework and figuring out whether that's the right avenue for you or not.
The next question is page 2 the only source of knowing what our final total is, or will SAI be sending us a formal bill?
I can take that one. So with page 2, whenever I or Angela receive it, we will look at how much that financial aid is and then do the calculations from the program balance. We are in constant communication with emails saying, hey, this is what your financial aid covers, when it's dispersed and when it's due. And then this is the remaining balance that is not covered by financial aid due December 1st. So hopefully that kind of takes care of anything. Is there anything to add with that, Angela?
So I would say, so we send an email when you pay the deposits. And in that email, it's entitled confirmation deposits received for, and then the name of the program that you're going to, right? So FUA Spring 24. If you've already paid the deposits and you haven't seen that email, go back and look at that email. It is a wealth of knowledge. It is a big, long email. And in that email, it tells you exactly what your program cost is. It tells you what it would look like if you were to defer it. And it tells you what it would look like if you were to split it into 2 payments. So we don't send you a formal bill, but we can if you request one, but we don't normally. Page 2 is, remember, it's coming from your home university. They don't know what we're charging you. All that page 2 is communicating from your home university what you're receiving in aid. So page 2 for some students is $3,000 and page 2 for some students is $23,000. So page 2 is just what you're receiving in aid. What we do in terms of communicating what your total bill is, or a formal bill, is we send that information to you when you pay your deposits. And then, like Brittany said, once you return the paperwork, we kind of summarize what you're going to owe us, right? Whether it's some on December 1st and some later, or all later. we summarize that again in an email. At any point, if you need any sort of summary, a statement, an invoice, you can always just email and ask us, and we'd be happy to provide that. But we don't normally send out bills to financial aid students because it can be so nuanced for each student. So we're happy to provide that if you need it, but otherwise the summary of your specific finances would come when you pay deposits, and then again once you return the paperwork, if that helps.
Okay, and then is the full payment due all at one time?
You want to take that, Brittany?
Yeah, so the full payment is not due all at one time unless, like we were kind of talking about with the financial aid deferment, and you don't get the certain amount, then it gets a little tricky. But we can kind of talk about that once we get to that point. So this whole webinar that we've been doing is financial aid. So essentially deferring your payment to be able to use your financial aid. And a portion potentially could be due on December 1st if your financial aid does not cover all of that. So in short, no, it's not all due at once. And we can work with you on getting that financial aid paperwork completed. And if you need another copy, let me know. I'm more than happy to send it over to you again.
This person asking, where does the consortium agreement information come from? Is it all of the extra costs like visa, insurance, and travel?
A great question.
So yeah, I know I've filled out a couple consortium agreements. So usually schools have sent them to me directly asking to fill them out for each student. So I can fill them out. And I believe Angela can fill them out as well. So you can send them on over to us and we'll get those right back on over to you.
And just to build on top of that, the information that we use, we don't just kind of make up numbers. So on our website, under each program, there are subheadings, and there are headings under each program that says, I believe it's costs. And underneath that subheading, if you scroll down, there is a section that says estimated budget. And that's there. If you haven't looked at it, and again, if your family is part of the discussions around money, I would highly suggest that you sit down with parents, guardians, whoever is involved in these discussions, and look at that, because we give you these estimated budgets from low to high, depending on your family's financial situation, for things like airfare, personal travel, taxis, groceries and meals, weekend travel. And it's just a way to kind of get an idea when you're talking about budgeting. Yes, there's our program costs in terms of tuition and housing, but then there's so much more than that. You have to live in that city for 4 months. And when your home university is trying to certify your financial aid package, that's great that you owe SAI Programs $14,000, but especially if you're trying to apply for loans, and if you're trying to apply for loans to live in Florence for 4 months, they want to know, how much do you need to live in Florence for 4 months? And so we take that budget that is listed on our website. We do use the low end of the budget, just so you know. We do not use the high end of the budget because we do not want you all taking out these gigantic loans. So we use the low end of the budget, and then it's up to your family whether you want to apply for more of a loan. We use the low end of the budget. And so when it asks us for the budget for food, we use that budget as our outline to fill out these consortium agreements for all these extra areas of expenses beyond our program costs. So when they ask us to fill out these consortium agreements, that's where we get the information from, is this estimated budget that we have online available for you and your family to use if you want to use it.
And then what exactly is the consortium agreement?
Consortium agreement is another document that the home university, specifically the financial aid office at your home university, needs in order to certify specifically most often loans. When you have merit-based or need-based loan aid, like scholarships or grants, they're normally not needed as much because those are that's free money. But when you're applying for loans, oftentimes this form is sent to SAI, and some schools just require it for any student that's getting financial aid. So every school is a little different, but the form is sent to SAI, and then Brittany and I will receive it. And then depending on whose student we handle each different accounts. So whoever's student it is, we will fill it out based on our costs, and then we send it back to the school. And that's how the school certifies or kind of makes sure that the student is not taking out too much or is not taking out enough. It just gives them some sort of ballpark of what the student's financial needs are. So it's a form that comes from the home university to SAI. SAI fills it out and gives it back. And that is a step that is normally required before the home university will fill out our financial aid deferment paperwork. So oftentimes our paperwork will get delayed if we haven't filled out the consortium agreement. So we're always very quick to fill out that consortium agreement, especially as we get closer and closer to November 15th, because we don't want to delay in our paperwork.
Going back to the University of South Carolina, who was the financial aid contact?
Is Tara Merkel. And I see that they want her contact information. I believe it's just a general email. Let me see if I can get it's just a general email, but her name is Tara. So if you send it to, I don't know, do we have a way of just typing in here? Can I type in here? Or can you, Madison? Into the Q&A?
I think, yeah, I can. I just lost. Okay, I think it was this one. Okay. Tara.
Okay. So her first name is Tara, and the general email there is FA, like financial aid, exchange. So FA exchange at mailbox.sc, like South Carolina, .edu. But Tara is her name, and she is a one-woman show. So if you've contacted her multiple times and you haven't been able to get a hold of her, that's probably why. She is a one-woman show. She's really amazing. You just have to have a little patience with her. She is quite literally, and she fills all these pages out by hand. I don't know how she does it. So it's not incredibly effective or like efficient, but she's really good at what she does. But there is a little delay sometimes. But Tara in financial aid office, email that general one, or just go and see her. Just stop in and see her. If you're on campus, I would just stop in and see if you can ask for Tara, and just say you're with SAI Programs, and sometimes she, or you can email her and copy us and just see if maybe you can get her to say hello. So, but she's really great. She's just busy.
Looks like we've got 2 more questions.
Okay.
Does SAI or the host university provide a 1098-T for tax purposes?
So we do not, because we are not a Title IV lending institution. So we're not a school. So we don't provide a tax form. But if you need one as you're gearing towards tax season, just email us and we can provide a student statement, and it breaks down all the different, tuition, housing. It shows that you're paid in full. It has our logo. It has our contact information. And we've never had anyone come back and say it doesn't suffice. So just reach out to us and we'd be happy to provide that for you if you need it.
Okay. Sorry. This one says, if the financial aid advisor didn't correctly fill out the form, would he have to correct it? Okay.
Yep.
So yes, definitely. I mean, if they don't, and we'll let you know right away. I mean, sometimes they don't fill it out correctly, and we kind of see what they meant, and we don't need them to correct it. But if it makes a big difference, if it's, you know, if it's going to affect the amount, if we really can't tell what they mean, if there's no disbursement dates, I mean, if it really makes a difference, we're going to ask you to bring it back to them and have them fix it. If it's clear to us what they meant, if we can kind of figure it out, we're not going to have you go back and forth. You know, we want to make this as easy on you as possible and as easy on us as possible. So if we can figure it out, we're going to leave it. We're not going to be sticklers that it has to be absolutely perfect. It's just, we just don't have access to this information because we're not a school. We don't have access to FAFSA. We don't have access to this information. So there's quite literally no way for us to know what your aid package is without the help of your financial aid office. So if they give us 98% of the information and we can pretty much figure it out, we're going to leave it. But if there's some big ticket items that are still really left unanswered and it makes a difference with how and when you would pay, we're going to ask you to go back to them and ask them to fix it. And if it's something that we can email your financial aid office and copy you in and see if maybe we can do it digitally to keep you from having to quite literally walk back and forth and get in there, we'll always do that. We would always much rather just email and copy you and see if we can get it done digitally. But yes, for the most part, we would have them fix it if it's really a question.
Second to last question, when is the summary given to the students on what financial aid is paying and what is the balance?
So the summary given to the student on what financial aid is paying and what the remaining is sent out whenever we receive the form back. So whenever we receive the form back with the financial aid portion filled out and the dispersal date, we'll be able to kind of do the math and look at the calendar, pinpoint 2 weeks after the disbursement date. And we'll send, again, a confirmation email for each page that we receive. And then we'll send an updated balance and payment schedule. So we'll be able to tell you X amount is due December 1st and Y amount is due 2 weeks after the financial aid is dispersed.
And then just to clarify, our financial aid is separate than FAFSA, right?
So separate, but very much linked. So it's kind of a step-by-step process. So you're going to want to apply for FAFSA through your home university. Whatever you are awarded or qualify for through FAFSA is what will be, that information is what your financial aid office at your home university will take and kind of input on our paperwork. So they won't have anything to put on our paperwork if you don't fill out the FAFSA. We don't have anything to do with the FAFSA, but you have to fill that out if you want anything to be, you know, if you want any sort of financial aid package. So yes, they are separate, but they're very much linked and very much intertwined. You can't have one without the other. If that makes sense.
Okay, that's all we have time for questions. Thanks so much for joining us today. If you have any other questions beyond the seminar or we did not get to you, please reach out to our office at financialaid@SAIprogams.com.
Thank you for all those great questions, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day.
Thank you.